Hello, my name is Camyron Holt, and I'm president of Instant FC LLC, and I have about 7 years' experience in Texas real estate development. And today I want to talk about how to get a timber exemption in Texas. Now, what is a timber exemption? Timber exemption is a property tax exemption granted by the county appraisal district for a property that's at least 3 acres large and is principally devoted to the production of timber. So this timber exemption will reduce the taxable value of your land, and not any improvements on it like a house, but reduce the taxable value of your land and therefore reduce your year's property taxes. So a timber exemption will last as long as your property is devoted to timber production. If there is a use change, like you've platted the property or you're doing heavy construction on the property, let's say you built a racetrack on the property, well, now your use has changed and now your timber exemption will go away in the year that you have changed that use. If you'd like an extremely detailed listing about the timber exemption, please go to my PowerPoint where I've attached a link to the manual for the appraisal of timberland produced by the Texas Comptroller. So let's get into it. What are the steps you need to take to get a timber exemption? The first step is that you're actually going to need to meet qualifying criteria to even submit an application to get your timber exemption. The second step that you'll need to take is engaging a forester to prepare a timber management plan. Third step is that you're going to need to submit an application for 1D1 open space timberland appraisal to the county appraisal district for each and every property tax account that you're submitting for a timber exemption. So if your property covers 3 property tax accounts, you're going to need to submit 3 applications. The last step is you'll receive a notice from the county appraisal district regarding their decision to grant you your timber exemption. So let's get into the first step here. So what are the criteria that you need to meet to even qualify to submit for a timber exemption? First criteria is a current and active devotion to timber use. So you'll need to show some evidence or records that you are actively producing timber on the property and managing the timber on the property. The second criteria is the primary use for the property. So again, if you have a racetrack in the middle of your timber, well, that's not the primary use for your timber. You just have trees on your property. So you want evidence that your timber production is the primary use. The third criteria is passing a degree of intensity test. Now, this is a test produced by the county appraiser. It's very subjective. It's just essentially saying, hey, you say that you are producing timber on your property. Are your actions appropriately matching what you're saying you're going to do? Are you actively selling timber? Are you managing your timber operation? The fourth criteria is an intent to produce income. Now you need to show, do I have anything to evidence that I've been actually making money off of this timber? These are things like receipts. Maybe you hired somebody to sell your timber. Maybe you met with a forester right before your sale just saying, hey, what should I do? Maybe you have some trees that are almost dead that you've been trying to save. All of these activities show that you're intending to actually make money off of this timber production. And the last criteria is that 5 out of the last 7 years have been devoted to timber production. So if you bought a property that already had a timber exemption, those previous years that the property was in a timber exemption count towards your required years. If you've been owning a piece of property for, let's just say, the last 10 years, well, you're going to need to show you've done at least 1 timber management practice per year for 5 out of the last 7 years to meet this criteria. Now, it's been my experience that if you've just purchased a property with a timber exemption, you're just trying to get that exemption to carry forward. This last criteria, 5 out of the 7 years been devoted to timber production, is your most important criteria. You're essentially preparing a timber management plan, you're filing an application to keep this timber exemption going. Now, one big thing that you need to keep in mind is that the timber exemption application is due April 30th after you purchase your property. Now that's that next April 30th, meaning that if you purchase a property on January 30th of 2023, you're still going to need to submit a timber exemption application to the county on or before April 30th, 2023. So you'll need to keep in mind there is a time-sensitive element to that. And if you don't submit your application on time, you'll be charged 10% of your tax savings under the timber exemption. So to put that in a formula, it's 10% times market value minus taxable value with that timber exemption times the tax rate. So the next step is hiring your forester to prepare a timber management plan. So you'll need to hire a forester. I have a link in my PowerPoint to a list of foresters in Texas that was prepared by Texas A&M University. This list is a little bit old, but it is a pretty comprehensive list. It's a great list. I've used it before. I've located 3 foresters on this list. Sometimes foresters go in and out of business or move on, but it's a pretty comprehensive link. The timber management plan that the forester will actually create will describe what are the county appraisal district tax accounts on your property, what are the acreage of trees on your property, what are the types of trees on your property, what are the types of soils on your property. It may even include evidence that you've been doing timber management activities over the last years that you've owned the property. You'll be providing that evidence, but it may include that evidence. And lastly, they'll create a timber management plan for the production and harvesting of timber on your property. So essentially, they'll create a plan for you to follow moving forward. The next step is to prepare and submit your application for 1D1 open space timberland appraisal. Now, in my experience, the forester who's prepared the timber management plan was kind of by default prepare your timber exemption application, this application for 1D1 open space timberland appraisal as part of the preparation of the timber management plan. But to the extent you want this form itself, in my PowerPoint I've created links to Harris County and the surrounding counties to their timber exemption applications. The last step is that you'll receive a notice from the county. So about a month after you submit your application for 1D1 open space timberland appraisal, you'll receive a notice from the county appraisal district regarding their either approval or denial of your application. If you've been approved, that's awesome. You won't have to reapply for this timber exemption for at least the next 5 to 7 years. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't need to do anything. You still need to take some timber management practices, at least 1 a year, to just show that, hey, I'm actively managing timber. I'm trying to keep this timber exemption going. I'm actively doing timber management practices. And that'll help you on your next application, which will come in 5 to 7 years, but you'll be prepared. All right, well, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you for your time. You can visit instantfc.com for more real estate and finance materials. Have a great day.